Hey there, folks. How you doing today? Welcome back to the channel, and please bear with all the racket that's going on out here. We are actually in the background where life happens, and I actually just had to get up, stop the video, and go chase off a rooster that was right over there making all kinds of racket. So it is what it is. You're going to hear it. Let's not let it detract from the fun that we have in store for you. This is going to be part of our unfiltered fans-only content, or our UFO content, which, if you're not familiar with these videos, this is something that I do as my way of saying thank you to the folks that sit and watch all the stuff that we put out here on the channel. These are mostly unedited, mostly unfiltered videos, and usually it's in reference to something that we've already talked about on the series before. Hopefully you enjoyed that little 10-second intro showing you the guts of this Jeep spewed out all over the shop floor here. If you saw that video months ago, you know that this was a project that I've had on the back burner for a long time, and only recently have I actually started doing anything with it. But at this point, by the looks of things, we are committed to getting something done with this, so stick around. Hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. But this is not the topic of today's video, rather just a change of scenery for y'all to enjoy while we talk about a follow-up to this video that we did. I think it's been a couple of weeks, a week or two ago, that I filmed that video, and I uploaded it to the tube of you, and I requested monetization on it, and the content moderators looked at it and they said, nope, no way we're going to let you make the typical $15 or $20 off of this video. So it is what it is. It's not going to stop us from putting it out. It's just something that we have to deal with. This will be not only part 2 to our introduction to reloading video series, but it's also going to be part of our top 5 video series, which, if you aren't familiar with those, we have an entire playlist of them. Go check one out. They're kind of fun. It's one guy's perspective, one guy's opinion on things related to the Second Amendment and firearms.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
It's mid-October right now. It's nice and cool. There is a chill in the air in the mornings, and if you are like me, you are into deer hunting or getting out and doing some kind of fall harvesting, and I decided to make this video themed along those lines. So this is going to be our top 5 reloading myths for hunting rifles video. If this one goes well, we might have a top 5 reloading myths for pistols. We might have for competition shooting or whatever, but this one is going to be more or less geared towards hunting rifles in the spirit of the season. We'll talk about the myth. I'll give you a little bit of my perspective of the reality attached to that, and then we'll talk about it in the comment section down below after the fact. So without further ado, number 5, the myth is it's cheaper. I'm going to get into reloading or hand loading to save money. Now, real quick, tactical pause. If I say reloading or I say hand loading, for the purposes of what we're talking about here, I use the term somewhat interchangeably, so don't get caught up on that. There is a difference, but it's not enough to make one in this regard. So the myth is it's cheaper. I'm going to do it to save money. The reality is that under certain conditions, eventually, yes, you could save money reloading over buying factory ammunition, specifically if you're dealing with premium ammunition. But it used to be more of a thing than it is now. It used to be a lot cheaper to get into it than it is now. But just know that between buying equipment and components and all the little gadgets and doohickeys that come up that are going to make it better or easier or more productive or efficient, the likelihood of you saving money by reloading your own hunting ammunition is very unlikely compared to what you would pay for factory ammo if you were just going to buy it, sight in your rifle, and then take it hunting. There's little chance that you would save money reloading in most circumstances. Number 4, the myth. Reloaded ammo is better than factory ammo because I can load it hotter. Oof. Again, There are always certain exceptions to everything, but the general reality to that statement is this. Yes, you can load hand loads hotter than factory ammunition. It is possible in most circumstances. Let me give you a visual demonstration to get my point across. Just because you can cram something into something does not make it a good thing. Does that make sense? Do I need to elaborate? Basically, they're standards, they're specs for a reason. And with modern hunting ammunition, with modern rifles, those SAMI specs that have been established for safe loading practices, they're there for a reason. They're there to keep you from blowing up your gun. They're there to keep you from tearing up your equipment. They're there to keep you from getting injured. And as I mentioned, there are exceptions to that, which we will potentially cover in depth later on. Suffice it to say that most factory ammunition, most SAMI specs for factory cartridges that are out there are more than adequate for the given purpose of that cartridge, and there's not really any need to load hot, and in most cases it's dangerous to do so. Number 3, the myth is that hand loading will allow me to shoot whatever bullet weight I want through my rifle. The reality is that while some weapons will shoot a wide range of projectile weights well, if your rifle is ammo sensitive with a variety of factory loadings in a particular bullet weight, the example I'll give you, let me sit this down. The example I'll give you would be my Winchester Model 70 243. We actually have an entire playlist on that rifle. That particular rifle is extremely sensitive to not only bullet weight, but also basic design. We tried a ton of different ammunition through it with very poor results, and figured out that pretty much like a 100 grain Winchester PowerPoint was more or less the ideal weight and profile for a projectile for that particular rifle. Now, I have hand loaded for it extensively. I have tried several different factory loadings, and that has kind of been the case with all of them. In fact, just the other day, I took that rifle as well as my Ruger American Gen 2, which is also a 243, out to the range with a box of hand loads that I made using a 95 grain bullet, which was the Hornady SST. I loaded both rifles with identical ammo, took it out to the range, and this is what happened. As you saw there, the Winchester Model 70 held an incredibly poor group with that ammunition. I mean, it was like that. It was like a 4 or 5 inch group. I didn't even measure it. It was terrible. That was fired at 100 yards. So could you hit a deer with it at 100 yards? Probably so. Would I want to reach out any further than that? Not this guy.
That guy over there. Who, me?
On the other side of the same coin, we fired the Ruger American Gen 2. And we got a nice little group that was just over 1 inch with the same ammunition. So just because a hand load works well in one rifle doesn't mean it'll work well in another. And if you have a weapon that is particularly ammo sensitive towards a particular bullet weight in factory loadings, Simply hand loading for it in the same bullet weight probably isn't going to get you there either. The late, great Paul Harrell had a really good demonstration on one of his videos. If I can find it, I'll put the link down below, where he compared the A1 and the A2 Armalite platforms to each other. And one of the major differences between the A1 and the A2 was the twist rate. The A1 had a 1 in 12 twist that stabilized little short 55 grain bullets just fine, but would not stabilize the heavier bullets that the military later started to use. So when they revised the A1 platform and created the A2, they changed the twist rate to, I think it's a 1 in 7. It might be a 1 in 8, but I'm pretty sure it was a 1 in 7 to stabilize the longer, heavier bullets. And that has kind of become the standard now in civilian variants of those rifles for the same reason. It gives you not only the ability to stabilize that 55 grain bullet, but you can stabilize a little heavier also. But that's just a good demonstration of how twist rate can affect the ability to shoot different loadings. But twist rate isn't always everything there is to it. My Ruger American Gen 2 and that Winchester Model 70 are both 1 in 10 twist, and the Gen 2 stabilizes just about everything that I fed it, and the barrel in the old Winchester is extremely sensitive and really only likes 100 grain bullets, so take that for what it's worth. Moving on to myth number 2. I can hand load more accurate than any factory ammo. The reality to that is simple. Yes, it is possible to hand load to a greater degree of accuracy than what you can achieve with most factory offerings. In fact, some rifles, arguably most rifles, could potentially do better with some type of custom-tuned hand load than with something that is commercially available. That said, we live in the age where manufacturing technology has developed to the point where machines, computers, batteries, your cell phone, and factory ammunition have improved to a point where they are capable of feats that you wouldn't have thought possible even just a few years ago. And an analogy that I like to use, I've mentioned it on here several times in the past, and that is, take your cell phone out of your pocket and look at it. The technology and the efficiency that that device operate with was something that you never would have thought possible 10 or 15 years ago. We've seen it. We've talked about it with 9mm ammunition. The modern defensive loads, the controlled expansion type bullets that are available for a 9mm today were unheard of, just earlier in my lifetime. So take it for what it's worth. My Savage 110, which is it's a Walmart Savage 110. It's got a nice scope on it, but there's nothing, the rifle hasn't been modified. There's been nothing done to it. That Savage 110 can consistently shoot groups this big with, among other things, factory Remington 150 grain core locked ammunition. It's to the point I can shoot a half-inch group at 100 yards out of that rifle with factory Remington 150 grain core locks. I don't even bother loading anything else in it. I don't bother working up hand loads for it because cheap factory ammunition shoots through that rifle better than I could achieve otherwise. I mean, is there a potential that maybe I could do better? Maybe, but it's highly unlikely. Now, if you're competing in some kind of extreme discipline, if you are competitively shooting, whether it be something like Palma or F-class or something like that, then yes, at that point, your hand loads are based on, like overall projectile weight. You're buying components and throwing out 2/3 of them because of variances in weight. You're buying match grade primers. You're hand loading to the 100th of a grain. And it's an extreme discipline that doesn't apply to most folks, particularly not to new hand loaders. So don't get wrapped up around the axle with that. Yes, it is possible to make hand-loaded ammunition more accurate than factory ammunition, but that is nowhere near the thing that it used to be. End of story. All right, now, so moving on to myth number 1. Can I get a drum roll, please? All right. Myth number 1. I'm going to hand load for my rifle, so I'm not even going to bother finding a factory load that it likes. Let me tell you a story. I have hand loaded for over 25 years. I have several rifles in my collection that I have never fired factory ammunition through, whether it be that it's some kind of antique that factory ammunition is no longer available for, or if it's just something that I bought specifically for, target shooting at the range or whatever it may be. I have rifles that have never fired a factory round. That being said, those rifles are not the usual suspects that I take with me on hunting trips. And well, there could be exception to that. Hear me out. Let's say, let me paint a picture for you. You're getting ready to go on a once-in-a-lifetime hunt. Let's say you got drawn out of state to go and hunt a Gemsbok out on White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. That's a once-in-a-lifetime chance you get there. So you pack up all your gear, you put your rifle and your ammunition into your TSA-approved hard case, you check it at the airport, you jump on the plane and you fly out to middle of nowhere, USA, only to find when you get there that the Gestapo thugs in the TSA, which are second only to content moderators in vile uselessness, opened up your case, rummaged through it, and either confiscated your hand loads or simply forgot to put them back into the box. But regardless, you've just arrived with your rifle the day before your hunt, and you don't have any ammunition for it. Now, as bad as that would be if your rifle was chambered in some easily acquirable factory loading, let's up the ante and say that this is your ultra bougie skeletonized chassis platform Herzenberger Buscadero Thai Condra chambered in 7mm PRC Ackley improved with a carbon fiber barrel and a Zermatt titanium action, and you paid more for this rifle than you paid for your truck. And you get there, and not only do you not have your hand loads, there's no factory ammunition available on the planet that you could fire through that gun. See where I'm going? What I'm trying to say is this. If it really matters, I suggest that you have a backup plan with your rifle so you don't wind up having to ditch your dream rifle when you go on your dream hunt and shoot a borrowed 300 Win Mag from the guy that took you on the hunt that you've never even fired before, and now you're chancing the trophy of a lifetime because you decided it wasn't important to have a backup plan with your loadings. So that's probably the most important part that I can come up with for this is if you're going to hand load for your rifle, base it off of a factory loading that shoots well through your gun. It doesn't have to be perfect. You could find something factory that you like and then try to replicate it with a hand load or whatever. But just if you're going to put the time into this process, have a backup plan and know that while I prefer my hand loads, I'm going to take my hand loads. I'm going to use my hand loads for the hunt. If I had to, I could go out and buy a box of Federal Fusion and run it through the rifle and I would be okay. I've gone on long enough. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comment section down below what I missed, what you think should have taken place of one of these, or add to it. Feel free. Look forward to hearing from you later. As always, take care and God bless.